St. Charles County is where some of the heaviest rain has been. That's where News 4's Caroline Hecker is live for us tonight at 5. Caroline, you're in St. Peter's. Tell us exactly where you are and what you're seeing.
Well, right next to Lone Wolf Park, and I actually want to show you, there's not much to see. You can see the roof of that, what appears to be a pavilion. There's got to be at least 10 or 12 feet of standing water over in that park. Now, this area is prone to flooding, but if you take a look at the road behind me, we've actually seen water rising rather than falling in the last couple of hours. You see that speed limit sign? We used to be able to see that it was a 35-mile-an-hour limit. Now you can't see that at all. All of this water from the Dardine Creek pouring over and really creating a waterfall down this little hill here into this landscaping business. Now, we talked a little bit with the owner earlier today. He says he's been here for several years, and it's not the first time that this has happened. They say they actually opened the doors to both buildings because it's better than letting the pressure build up and the water ending up, he says, doing even more damage. They saw some of this coming, as we said, with the water rising. They made sure to move some of their equipment at the bottom of this hill, but he says at this point, the damage is really done.
When the creek gets out, and it's not supposed to be a problem. He was told that it's not ever going to be a problem. This is the second time since 2017.
Yep. Now, you've got the business here on the left and his home on the right. I can tell you the water is probably chest deep. It's a little bit above the door handle of the home, and that area was absolutely clear at about 12:30 when we first came by. So that just shows you the power of the water behind us. Again, the water in the park has receded just a little bit, but I know Steve had talked about the Dardine Creek being near that high flood stage. We're certainly seeing the effects of that, as well as the homeowners and businesses that neighbor this creek, all of them saying they're happy that they are okay, no one was hurt, but they're going to have to get a hold of the insurance company to see what can be done. We're live in St. Peter's tonight. Caroline Hecker, News 4.
Okay, Caroline, quite the damage out there. We'll continue to follow that for us tonight. Thank you.
In the meantime, interstates across the metro were just covered by water. This is a look at I-44 this morning from our crews on the scene. Our Russell Kinsall has been tracking the interstate impacts on drivers as well as businesses. He's live now in FLORISSANT.
First, let me show you where I am and what's going on here. This is the Florissant Meadows Shopping Center near North Lindbergh and St. Denis. This entire parking lot was full of water. All of these businesses got flooded. This physical therapy business had water 8 to 10 inches inside. Some of their electronics ruined. This is St. Denis. See that barricade down there? That's Coldwater Creek. That's what caused the flooding right here. Tow trucks are getting rid of some of the cars that were swamped in by driving into that flood water. Water was rushing across this road for most of the day. No, one of the big concerns for the businesses that remained open was whether or not trucks would be able to get through to make deliveries between all the road closures in Florissant because of Coldwater Creek and the interstates. The worst problem this morning was the total shutdown of I-70 near Mid-Rivers Mall Drive. The water was 3 feet deep and over the lanes of traffic in both directions. Lanes of Interstate 6440 and I-44 were also closed for periods of time. On the Illinois side, IDOT tells me they never had to completely close any of their interstates, but 2 of the 3 lanes on westbound I-5570 in East St. Louis had to close. MoDOT is calling the flooding event unprecedented.
So if we can't open this store, like we lose, it's the one that's going to lose the most amount of money per day. And if our trucks can't get in to deliver ice cream tonight, we won't have any to sell next week. So it's not just right now, it's not just that we're closed right now. This will have repercussions for a while going forward.
So you just heard from the owner of this Baskin-Robbins here at St. Denis in North Lindbergh. The basement flooded. Right now they're pumping the water out. But coming up on News 4 at 6, she and others talk about why it's so important for businesses and homeowners to report the damage that they suffered. That way you might be eligible for low-income government loans later. I'll explain that coming up on News 4 at 6. Live in Florissant, Russell Kinsall, News 4.
Russell, thank you so much. We'll check back in shortly.
And late this afternoon, County Executive Dr. Sam Page signed a state of emergency declaration due to the flooding.
I spoke to Acting Governor Mike Kehoe this afternoon. He has also signed an executive order. And I spoke to Congresswoman Cori Bush, who's been in touch with the White House. And we are hopeful that an executive declaration of a state of emergency from our White House, from the President, will come soon.
In St. Louis City, one person was killed and nearly 8 feet of floodwater. This is the aftermath near Skinker and Enright. Our Jenna Ray has been monitoring that investigation and the impacts of flooding that left people stranded in the city. Jenna.
Sam, right now I'm standing about a quarter mile from where that flooding death happened here on North Skinker and Hodemont. It's where several rescues happened earlier this morning underneath this overpass behind me. There were 3 cars still here about 2 hours ago. They've since been towed, and today as of noon, the fire chief tells me they've seen more than 70 water rescues today.
We've had a tremendous amount of cars that have been door deep and also roof deep in some of these low-lying areas. It has receded a little bit. Now we're seeing the weight of the water cause some issues with buildings.
Clark & Sons Funeral Home on Hodemont is one of the many buildings in the area suffering damage from the flooding. Reverend Clark, who didn't want to do an on-camera interview, tells me they had about a foot of water inside his funeral home, ruining floors, carpets, furniture, and more. The water receded earlier this morning, and North Skinker has looked like this for the last several hours. It's why one father came back to this exact spot to try and get his daughter's belongings.
Well, naturally, when she called, she was panicky, hysterical, crying, which scared me. So, Daddy, I'm down here stuck. My car is flooding. Where are you?
To action as his daughter's car was filling up with water underneath this overpass behind me. Her swift escape from the car, an exclusive video you'll only see here on Channel 4. That's coming up tonight at 6. We're live in North City. Jenna Ray, News 4.
Jenna, thanks. The water quickly flooding apartment buildings this morning in Hazelwood, forcing evacuations and rescues. News 4's Gabriela Vidal is continuing our coverage with those making their way to higher ground.
Hazelwood police say they rescued around 150 people this morning from the floodwaters, and residents living at the Reserve at Winding Creek Apartments tell me what they experienced this morning could only be described as unprecedented.
3 o'clock in the morning, my next door neighbor banged on the door and said, "Dana, you gotta move your car."
A startling sight for residents in Hazelwood.
It was waist high, right up under the chest area. It took a lot to walk through this water. I mean, this morning. It was still lightning outside.
As floodwaters quickly traveled inside the first floor of multiple apartment buildings.
Never in my entire 10 years that I've been here, it's never been this bad.
Dana Manuel got out with whatever she could and walked through the rising waters to safety.
My dogs and I have my cell phone in a bag, and pretty much that's it.
Others rescued by boat as the morning went on.
Police department were first on scene, knocking on doors, trying to evacuate people. Fire department came in shortly thereafter to help us start moving people.
Hazelwood Police Major James Hutnick says their department only has 1 rescue boat, so they enlisted the help of nearby agencies.
Kids don't have no shoes. Everybody's wet. I'm still wet.
But Hutnick says the heavy rainfall also impacted other areas around Coldwater Creek.
We moved some citizens to our Civic Center East. It became an island on its own, so we had to perform yet a mini rescue to get those people out of that zone.
He says now they're working with the Red Cross to help those who've been displaced from their homes find shelter.
Down to the main facility down in Richmond Heights, we're transporting residents to family members in the area if they would choose to go there instead.
In Hazelwood, Gabriela Vidal, News 4.
In the Metro East, an animal control center sent dozens of pets to neighboring shelters. News 4's Dion Broxton continues our team coverage tonight. He's at Gateway Pet Guardians in East St. Louis with some new details for us. Dion.
Sam, when I got here earlier, I watched volunteers just scrambling, putting crates together to prepare for the influx of animals coming here. In the last few minutes since I've been here, I've watched dozens of people pull up and drop off bags full of items for the shelter. Now, the St. Clair County Animal Control in Belleville is where all rescued animals in the county go. At the time of the flooding this morning, officials told News 4 there were about 60 to 70 cats and dogs inside. Those dogs and cats were bused and taken to shelters across the Metro East. These shelters say most shelters are already near or at capacity. Here at Gateway Pet Guardians, they say they had around 40 pets this morning. Officials say that could potentially double today without the help of the public.
foster homes is going to be critical. Obviously, this is a temporary setup that we have here. We don't want these animals in crates for an extended period of time, so we're going to need foster homes, primarily for large breed dogs, 50 pounds or more.
St. Clair County is a no-kill county. That means that our save rate is 98%. 98% of animals that are brought through this facility make it out the other side. No one around here in our county euthanizes for space, but that means it's a desperate situation, not just today when we have a flood, but every day that the community step up and be responsible to adopt from rescue.
Officials here say they can manage an uptick of pets for likely a few weeks. Now at 6, we'll take you to a neighborhood in the Metro East that constantly floods, and neighbors say they're fed up. Live in East St. Louis, Dion Broxton, News 4.
All right, Dion, thank you so much for that update.
The floodwaters forcing the Muni to cancel tonight's show. This is the flooded backstage of Legally Blonde, the musical. The theater shared dozens of photos and videos of the mess left behind by the rain. The rescheduled performance is set for Monday, August 1st.
News 4 does have team coverage of this historic rain since the flooding started overnight all the way into this morning. News 4's Paige Holsey shows us some of the difficulties as the day began.
News 4 is in storm mode.
As News 4 came on air this morning, St. Louisans were already feeling the impact of this record-breaking rainfall.
Right now, what they're doing is they're using a tool to try and clear the drains.
That is 70, both directions. Look at all that damage to the interstate. So once MoDOT, as we look at this, you guys, doesn't this just look like rivers next to each other?
Surreal.
3 of them.
We got someone who's up on the roof and showing you just how bad this still is up there, stuck up there. I don't know if you can see it. We're gonna flag somebody over here for you. Okay, we'll get somebody over here for you. It's really, I mean, just a big distance over, and it's getting a lot worse. The rain just picked up. We're gonna get somebody over here for her because this street, if you can see, it's extremely bad. You see multiple cars flooded in this area. We've even got this high voltage building right here that's smoking, so we're gonna go and try to find some help.
The situation seemed to grow more dire as the morning went on and rain continued to fall. Some residents had to be evacuated. Others fled on their own.
I carried all 3 of my dogs and my 3 kids and my wife out.
As daylight broke, the damage became more clear. Countless cars underwater, people wading through the flood. By midday,
the water is actually rising. We were able to see the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit when we pulled up 15 minutes ago. It is now gone. I want to show you quickly what huge problem that has caused. There's a business down here.
Another view of the damage from the air. This drone video showing floodwater overtaking roads, businesses, and cars in Maplewood. For News 4, I'm Paige Holsey.